Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm taking a look at something really damn cool. This right here is the high-grade Gawain from the absolute mecha masterpiece that was Code Geass. This right here is a kit I never thought I would see clad in plastic by Bandai themselves, but here it is. I will mention this is a premium Bandai release only, which you'd be shocked by the look of that full, fantastic box art right there. This is an absolute shame that this is not a full release, but it is not. So that does mean it can be a little bit harder to get, so if you want to get one of your own, you can get yours exactly where I got mine, and that is through those awesome people over at Buyee. But yeah, what can I say? This thing is pretty big, it looks absolutely awesome, but before we talk about it any further, let's wind on back a little bit to the build. The high-grade Gawain comes in an absolute honker of a box. This is massive, absolutely huge, on par with your standard fairly big master grade size box. Now this may be a little bit misleading at first because when you do actually pop it open, it doesn't have as much plastic in it as you would expect for a box of this size. So there isn't really a whole lot in here, a few bags, totaling in 8 runners of plastic, which is usually what you would see with something like a high grade. There is a 9th runner of plastic in here, and that does mean we do have a fully included stand, which is always nice. When it comes to the build, just taking a look at the manual will tell you all you need to know. There's no staples in it, which means it's not a book style, which means there's not a whole lot to do. It folds out like a pamphlet, and it's a nice pamphlet at that. I really love what they've done with the Code Geass pamphlets, that they've added the little characters in chibi form, telling you things that you should and shouldn't do. Overall, when it does come to the build of this kit, it is the standard high-grade affair, so that means there is no full inner frame or anything like that. You're building the joint, then an armor piece, then the joint, etc. throughout the whole kit. Now, we'll mention the legs are quite nice in usual kind of Code Geass kind of way, because it does have some wheels in there. So there is a little bit of an extra mechanism to different moving aspects of the lower leg, which is pretty cool. I will also mention to be extremely careful with this kit because the black plastic especially is incredibly brittle. So I did break one piece while trying to attach it on. It was just one peg, there's other pegs doing the job too, but it is just worth being super careful with it. The gold in here is a little bit, well, it's not too bad for injection gold, but this might be something you might consider painting just to get the full, premium, glorious Gawain finish. Now the black plastic on this might be a little bit on the brittle side, but don't worry, that does not extend to the joints. The joints are made out of a nice gunmetal injection plastic, which does feel rough and tough and should hold up to at least some posing. And boom, draw the rest of the L because I didn't film the rest of the actual putting out this together. I just took my time with it. I built something else in the meantime, which I think was the entry grade option parts for the Strike Gundam, so I totally didn't bother with filming the rest of the build. So hey, aesthetics time. So jumping right on into the aesthetics, and what can I say, I'm absolutely floored by how good this looks. Straight away, what it will catch you with is the fact that it's a fairly hefty size kit for something that does say high grade on the box, and all of those absolutely ridiculously beautiful reflections all over the surface of this is, I don't know how to say, it's just plain stunning. The way this plays with the light is ridiculously cool. On top of that, we do have a whole lot of different finishes on here. We've got that injection gold, we've got gloss across everything. The maroon on here is gloss, the black is gloss. We've even got a kind of almost metallic pearlescent orange to some aspects on this, which really does, again, play with the light and different textures to this particular kit. The gunmetal on here is shiny too, but it's more of a semi-gloss, so it does look a little duller than what we see elsewhere on it, but that still works so well with the kind of light play the surface of this kit has. Of course, you have that ridiculously cool Anubis style head, which really adds to the royal, dark awesomeness to this particular mecha. If that wasn't enough, we still have some nice other aspects on this as well. If you pop open the shoulders here for the Hadron, whatever they're called, beamer thingamajigs, well, in here we've got some of those cool stickers Bandai uses a lot of the time, which are kind of like a 3-dimensional jewel sticker, and these catch the light perfectly too. Just everything about this plays with the light in such cool ways. It looks premium, it looks awesome, and the only suggestion I would say is the gold could look a little better. Give that a bit of a spray, and this thing will look outlandishly premium. Alright, so jumping on in for a little bit of a closer look, and this thing right here is huge. I'll get to the size comparison soon enough, but this is a lot bigger than I expected to be. I will mention that these are 1/35th scale, so they're not anything like Gunpla, of course. If you're familiar with Code Geass, you know that Lelouch is right in here in the back, and before I forget to mention it at all, with the older kits that would have came out, whew, 10 plus, maybe 15 years ago or so, we did actually have a little figure inside of those. You could open it up and take a look at them. That is not the case with this. There's nothing inside of it like with the last two premium Bandai releases. The head on this looks absolutely phenomenal. It does have a little bit of a Gundam-y kind of vibe to it, with those big Anubis ears pointing out from the top. The eyes are fully color separated in there, so the red is coming through, which does mean they're a little bit on the dull side. I might actually disassemble the head and paint those in a nice reflective red, because that could be, well, it could pop a little bit better, but still not too bad. Overall, everything looking absolutely incredible. The way the black gloss just catches that light is extremely, extremely nice. The only real kind of gimmick we have on here is this, which opens up besides the ones in the legs, but there's nothing really to see in there. They've fully detailed out the inside of this with that nice gunmetal gloss injection, and we have those really nice dual style stickers in there as well for those Hadron shoulder cannons. This opens and closes exceptionally simple. I will mention that the part I actually broke is inside one of the sides of these. It doesn't really matter because they hold on fine without it, but the gloss plastic is incredibly brittle, so be careful. We do have multiple shades of colors on this. The color separation is very nice. The way the hands have been color separated is nice too. We've got some metallic green back here, which is in a really nice color. And one of the coolest aspects here, and it's about time to get this onto an action base, is in fact the way this attaches to an action base. So we've got these little bits here you just pull down, and then this opens up like so, and you can attach the action base in, and you don't actually lose this part right here. You don't have to put it away and then end up losing it and forgetting about it, which to me is always an awesome positive. Anyway, size comparison time. So when it comes to the height of the high-grade Gawain, this is about 23 centimeters tall, which is, hey Siri, what is 23 centimeters in inches?
23 centimeters is 9.06 inches.
9.06 inches. So if we do pop that down beside a high-grade Gunpla, you can see it's much larger than the Gundam's high-grade equivalent, and there it is side by side with a Master Grade 1100 Gunpla. So as you can see, it's even taller than an average size Master Grade Gundam. Of course, it doesn't have the level of detail as a Master Grade, but it is a big piece in and of itself. And speaking of the big piece, there it is, side by side with the high-grade Guren Seitin, which was the last release from this particular line, which also had the Lancelot Albion. Now, I don't have my Lancelot Albion around at the moment to use. It's in the to-sort pile that I need to get around to, and it's been there for quite some time. But yeah, Bandai did actually show a little bit of a image right here that shows just how big this kit is compared to the Lancelot. So it is a very big kit, but then again, so is this right here, the Guren. So now jumping into the full 360-degree spin, and the high-grade Gawain is a ridiculously awesome looking kit, but I will notice looking through the camera right now, it does look like it's not really picking it up as well as it does actually look in person. It's mainly trying to get the black and the gold exposed at the same kind of, you know, way is a little bit on the difficult side, so I'm not sure how this will turn out, but it does look absolutely phenomenal. I'll try a different pairing of lights to see if I can get something that gives it a little bit more of its actual look in reality, but it's super high gloss, the black is deep and rich, the gold really pops, and overall this is one ridiculously, incredibly insane looking kit, but maybe hard to capture in video. So now jumping into the accessories, and here's everything that comes inside of the box with the high-grade Gawain, which isn't a crazy lot really. First off, we do have an included stand, which is always a very nice addition inside of a box, especially with something like this that spends most of its time in the air. And on top of that, we have two sets of alternate hands. That's 3 in total, including the ones that are attached onto the Gawain right now. That is some flying hands, as well as these ones right here with these wire finger things that, well, they're the Slash Harkins, and all I can say is, they don't really work out that well. But we'll get to that in a minute. So first up in here we have the action base. If I'm not mistaken, this is an action base 5, maybe? I'm not sure, it could be a fraction of an action base 4 because it does have the longer stem section. These are super handy stands, you just kind of adjust them like this, it's very easy. And that will hold your Gawain up there. And I'll also mention, as usual, you do get the full runner of bits for with it as well. So you got a medium and a shorter middle piece right here, and a bunch of different parts for attaching different model kits onto the top of it, which is always pretty cool to have. When it comes to attaching the Gawain onto the stand, it's super simple. Like I mentioned, we've got that awesome little simple but awesome hatch around on the back that just opens like so to give you that 3mm hole, which is of course shaped perfectly to match this stand, which you just shove on into the hole like so, and that is it. There it is in a little bit of a kind of standing pose with this, so this can hold it in the air, hold it on the ground, do whatever you want. This kit is a little bit on the back heavy side, so it is nice to have this included to keep it secure up on your shelf. So in here we've got 3 types of hands. First off are these ones right here, which are almost kind of widespread claw-like relaxed hands. Gowon's T-posing hands of power. And these absolute feckin' joke hands that I think Bandai threw in here just to kind of have a bit of a laugh at you. So these are the Slash Harkins, and you know, I put them together very carefully yesterday when I finished this kit, popped them in where they needed to be, and then I checked earlier on and they were just all completely disassembled. Now, I put them back together again and then looked over and they were disassembled. So I'm not sure if the right finger is even on the right wire anymore, and I really don't care because this thing is just a mess. And now because I mentioned it, oh, there goes one. So yeah, there's just something so wonky about these that they don't really hold together. They fall out of the hand, the wire just tends to fall out of the hand. It doesn't, yeah, there it goes, there they go. The fingers fall off just as easily. Yeah, this is just designed, I think, to drive you insane. So attach the hands on as the usual way. Like any high grade, it's a ball joint into a hole. Bigger ball joints than a average Gundam kit. That's what these ones look like, and these are just your general kind of use hands. They kind of have a nice little bit of a kind of flex to them, but at the same time it also works as relaxed hands. And the back fell off. But yeah, they also work as relaxed hands when the hands are hanging down by the sides. Now these ones, of course, are the ones that everyone will want to attach. Now, just in case you haven't seen Code Geass, well, I would say pause the video right now and go binge the entire thing. It's absolute mecha masterpiece. It's perfect in pretty much every way. It's so good. But yeah, the Gowon right here, it T-poses through the air with these particular hands, absolutely dominating the skies and destroying everything. So yeah, it's about time for that momentous, absolutely fantastic moment that we actually get this into the pose, T-posing it through the air with those big Hadron cannons ready to blast. So this is really easy to pose. It's a nice kit to move around. There's some nice gimmicks up in the shoulders which allow you to get the arms up without the shoulder armor moving, which is pretty cool. Finally opening up those big old cannons in the shoulder, and this looks absolutely glorious. It's kind of a funny concept to take a mecha, throw it up on your shelf in a T-pose. It doesn't really make much sense, but this Gowon right here absolutely destroys it and makes it look phenomenal. So yeah, the last hand in here is the absolute nonsense hand, which is the hand with the Slash Harkins. Now this, oh man, this is not fun to put together at all. There's just something about the holes being, I think, ever so slightly too large for the wires. So you pop them in, you push them all the way to the end, then you're working on the next finger and boom, one's just falling out. Same on the other end with the fingers. When you're actually putting it together, it feels fine, but then they just drop off. I mean, well, whatever, it just, it doesn't work out that well and it's a pain in the hole. But anyway, this is what it looks like when they're all attached. It's definitely nonsense. You're not really going to get much of a real pose out of these because the wire's a little bit on the flimsy side. You could cut it a little shorter. I cut it to 15 centimeters, it said to, but yeah. These are absolutely ridiculous, kind of in a funny way, but at the same time in an annoying way, hence a nonsense way. But yeah, if you pop this up on your shelf like that, more than likely one of these is going to go missing in one way or another. So yeah, I don't recommend it. Alright, so finally now onto the articulation, and the weird thing about this is it can actually pull off a little more than you would expect it to, considering the Gowon is such a kind of big, lumbering nightmare frame compared to some of the other ones out there. Anyway, let's get into the usual pose and see what it can do. So yeah, getting this into the usual pose, and I'm actually shocked by what this can pull off. Like I mentioned with the Gowon, which is a bigger, more lumbering nightmare frame with some funny feet, it can do things I never expected that it could. It's got some decent articulation at those tiny little feet. The knees, the hips, the ab crunch, the shoulders, the arms, everything works incredibly well. And in the end, it does pull off this pose absolutely perfectly. Again, shocked by what the shoulders can do, shocked with what the ankles can do, and overall, this just dominates the pose entirely, looks very natural, and it's pulling off more poses than I ever would have expected from a kit like this. So I'm not going to go through all of the entirety of the articulation on this, but I will mention it is phenomenally nice. We do have these opening sections up on the shoulders for those big old cannons. Those close up and click into place nicely. The care Bandai has taken to allow the arms to raise up, well, simultaneously moving this part is really cool. It means you can get the arms up into that T-pose without having to worry about the shoulder armor moving up just like that, which is pretty cool. Also, to get the legs crossed, we do have a nice dropping mechanism in the hips. So these just drop down like this, like we would have seen very recently on the high grade Mighty Strike Freedom. So that makes sure you can get those legs into that typical T-pose position in the air. And finally, we do have those extremely hilarious but awesome Nightmare Frame style wheels down here. These do actually move, these ones right here. But the one back here is just for the look, it doesn't actually move, and same with the one here. So those do come out like that as well, and even though I didn't go through all of the articulation on it, at the spins right now in the verdict, I'll get into a couple of poses so you can see what it can look like. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and just like we would have seen from this line so far, just like with the Guren, this right here is Platinum tier. The high-grade Gowan really does capture the majesty of that absolutely majestic mecha. Now the only thing I'd really knock this back on point-wise is the fact that the gold is injection gold, which could look a little bit better. Of course, that's easy enough to paint up yourself before assembly, so if you wanted this to look absolutely perfect, that is what I would recommend. But still, out of box, it looks great. It's high gloss all over, it looks premium, it's ridiculously cool looking. On top of that, we do have some decent accessories. Well, we've got some extra hands, a nice stand, and some silly fingers. And when it comes to the articulation, this can pull off a lot more moves than I ever thought it would be able to. I expected it to just stand there and T-pose, but Bandai doesn't do that sort of thing anymore. This can get pretty much any pose you want out of it, so it can be as dynamic as you want, or as non-dynamic as you want to. Anyway, if you do want one of your own, I got mine through Buy, link is down there in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Mecha Model Kit reviews, and I'll see you next time. I can't end this video right here without the usual thanks, saying thank you so much for watching. This video and this channel would not be possible without each and every single one of you, including those of you who support me over on the channel memberships and on Patreon, including Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Go Little Rockstar, Joe, Org59061, Shadow Wolf 179, 10 Soldier YT, and Van Fawn.